Back together, but the Raiders, they finished dead last in the AFC West, only 4 wins last season. So how much of a difference is this combo of Carroll and Smith going to make?
Well, I mean, first off, it looks like this team is actually trying to win football games this year by the decisions that they're making in the offseason. Last year, you go into the season with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew at the quarterback position. You allow Josh Jacobs to go to the Green Bay Packers, and we saw the impact that he had there. So this team is doing something that's essentially totally opposite from last year and saying we are trying to win right now. They know that Pete Carroll will instill a culture, but with that culture, you need good football players, and that starts with Geno Smith. That starts with the ascension that he has had over the last few years and becoming one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, but also listening to him. He's a great leader. He's a man who has understood his adversity, learned from that adversity, and can now impart that on the younger people in that locker room. I believe this is a great start for this team as a leadership position goes from the head coach and the quarterback, but they have to add more players if they want to contend with the likes of the Los Angeles Chargers, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Denver Broncos.
Love what he said about Geno and Pete Carroll, but this is not a quick fix contender in Las Vegas. This defense has been bad 3 out of the last 4 seasons. And really, if you look at the makeup of the football team, this is a defense that's bottom 5 or bottom 6 in 3 out of the last 4 seasons. That 2023 season where they ended the season so well made them top 10. There's only 2 real difference makers on this defense, Max Crosby being one and Christian Wilkins being the other. He obviously has to stay healthy. So Ashton Genty, a playmaker. This defense is so devoid of real talent. And RC mentions the division. You compare it to the Denver Broncos or the Kansas City Chiefs or the Chargers talent, they don't. Now, there's some decent, solid players, but difference makers, there's 2. So I look at this as we really have to philosophically try to change who our defense has been over the last 4 or 5 seasons.
You know, you kind of.
Okay. I get what Orlovsky's talking about, but first off, there's a few things here. Defense is so effort-based that when you feel like you're playing for nothing and when you feel like your offense can't score and you feel like it's all on the defense, it's hard to just keep bringing it. It just is. It's hard. It's why you hear so much more regularly, like a lot of these defensive players when they're on losing teams, where they really are just like, bro, like just like kind of get me out of here. Like I can't keep putting in this work, sacrificing my body. You see that so much more from defensive players than offensive players. And surprise, surprise, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby this offseason were just like, guys, I can't keep doing this. Like what are we doing here? Because it's exhausting. So I am not going to judge this defense based off of these last couple of years. Not to mention, Pete Carroll is a massive upgrade from a defensive mind. That alone is going to elevate this defense. But this is what I also want to point out. So for some of these games where the Raiders were clearly like elevated and ready to go, and you know, there was a lot of belief, you know, you had it. Raiders versus Chargers, only 22 points. Going up against the Ravens, only 23 points. Against the Chiefs, we know they always want to play big games against the Chiefs. 27 points, not terrible. But then against the Chiefs again, 19 points. So when it was time for them to really try to like get after it, they could. When they felt that they were kind of having a chance to win the game, when they felt like, especially maybe a little bit earlier on in the season, when they were kind of fighting for more, they could. But then when things started to unravel, yeah, you give up 41 points against the Bengals. You give up 34 against the Dolphins, 34 against the Broncos. Like, at this point, you're just kind of like, the team's just kind of falling apart. And again, you're only giving so much at that point. You're the head coach is losing the locker room. You're having quarterbacks kind of flip-flop around and injuries and whatnot. You have Devontae who says like, I want out of here. Like when you're having all of those issues, it's hard for a team like the defense to just be able to bring that effort, because now you start to have a bunch of players who are kind of like, I'm just trying to stay healthy until next year, man, or I'm a free agent. Like I definitely want to be healthy going into this offseason because I got to get another contract. I got to get out of here. Like there's just a lot of other incentives at play that are not always very clear, right? It becomes so individual, quite frankly. You got some players who are ready to just empty the tank because they're like, man, this is my final year or 2 years probably in the league. Like, I'm just gonna try to go out and have some fun or whatever. Like it really all depends. But the one thing that's obvious is that everyone's not unified in trying to win because no one feels like they really have a chance. And when you especially when you see how the offense is unfolding, you definitely don't feel like you have a chance at all. Not to mention, make no mistake about it, you had a ton of turnovers as well. I mean, this is the turnover margin. They're ranked 30th. You were there with Tennessee Titans and the Cleveland Browns. All right, essentially -1. So you're getting crushed. Absolutely crushed in that regard. The Raiders had 29 giveaways. 29. I mean, that stuff is just exhausting for defenses to deal with. It just is. It just becomes absolutely exhausting. And it makes no, and it's not a surprise here that you have these bottom 3 teams having all these giveaways. I mean, it's the least surprising thing out there, quite frankly. And so when you run into this situation where now you also look at some of the top defenses like the Chargers, like the Chiefs, like the Eagles, they're all at the bottom for giveaways. That's helping out your defense. That's keeping your defense fresh. So it's a combination of factors. It's never just one thing. You can't just look at the bottom line of a defense or an offense for that matter, really anything, and just be like, oh, they were bad this year, therefore they're going to be bad next year, or they don't have any playmakers or difference makers. And it's like, all of that can be true, obviously, to a degree, but make no mistake about it. You've all worked jobs that you don't really care about or that you're grinding and you're just trying to like get by. When you're on a team like the Raiders and how they've been the last couple of years, but especially last year, these are still human beings. These aren't machines. It's very easy to say, oh, well, these guys are getting paid millions of dollars. They got to just go all in and play hard and play every game like it's your last. That's just not the way it is. It's just not. And especially when in the middle of the season, the team very strongly feels like, dude, we have zero chance at making the playoffs. Zero chance. Again, it's not to say that these players aren't going to play hard or that they're just going to roll over, but you are just going to get different levels of effort. So just effort-based, you're going to see a big elevation. Boom, that's going to increase the defense. Just having Pete Carroll there, boom, that's going to increase the defense. The sheer fact that you feel that you can actually win and sustain drives and turn the ball over less, boom, that's going to increase the defense. And that's not even including any of the extra pieces that you're going to bring in, especially in the draft and whatnot. So that's why I just see the stock rising for the Las Vegas Raiders. It seems very simple and very straightforward to me. I mean, listen, do I think that the Raiders, again, are just going to instantly become this top 5 defense? Of course not. But do I think that the trend that they've had last year is going to continue? No, I do not believe that for one bit. It's very hard to be a great defense when your offense just can't get anything going. But I mean, I don't even think the defense needs to be necessarily elite right now just for them to make a massive difference within, kind of who they've been as a team. But the Las Vegas Raiders are definitely one of the top teams that I'm finding myself really gravitate towards. I'm so uninterested in all of the draft predictions. I'm trying to find clips and I'm just like, what can we talk about? What teams do I actually have interest in talking about and continuing to talk about? And it's like I come across another Shador Sanders clip and it's like, will Shador Sanders go to the Giants? And it's just like, oh my God, like how many times can we ask and answer that question? And last season I found myself really gravitating towards the Commanders, the Bears, and the Broncos as like 3 teams that I were really excited to see what their season is going to look like and how is it going to unfold. And this offseason right now, it's just like, I find the Raiders as one of the most exciting teams to really be like, what is this team going to look like? When a team like the Raiders can be competitive and really turn things around, and you have Geno Smith there and Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, like, I think it's so good for the NFL, and it will be such an awesome talking point that if this Raiders team is 6-2, 8-3, 9-4, something, like just something that's just a legit record where they're legitimately, either kind of flirting with the division or right in the playoff mix in the wild card. Like, to me, like that is such the foundational aspect of the NFL. We saw it with the Broncos last year. We saw it with the Commanders last year, and we saw the opposite with the Bears, but for still all the right entertainment reasons. It was like everyone thinks that this team's going to be great, and now they're not. Let's talk about it. What is happening? Can this season be salvaged? What's going on? Oh my God, they're losing games in just like absurd fashion. Hail Marys, terrible timeouts, time management, etc., etc. And to me, that's where it feels like for me for the Raiders, except I don't think the expectations are through the roof for the Raiders, where like if they struggle, everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? But I just think that if the Raiders are even just semi-competent here, the story and the value for this team will just be through the roof to me. And so, yeah, I really hope, because again, they were 4-13. Just to imagine that, and this is what I've said in pretty much like all my Raiders videos now, it's just like to think that you can have Geno Smith there and Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, that collection of people is not worth at least another 4 games or so. I mean, at least 4 games. It would just be the most shocking thing ever. And then again, even if we just give them now 8 games, again, now you're flirting with the playoff, right? Because I'm probably, if you win around 10 games or so then you're within this margin of like, if you come away with a couple extra wins, boom, you're 10, 11 win team. That should be good enough to be in the playoffs. I mean, you never know, but that should be. And so like, there you are. You're right there in the hunt. You're right there in the mix. So, I continue to be really locked in on what the Raiders' potential is, and I'm like, to me also, it's going to be so fascinating to see what they do in their draft as well. And I think potentially, if there's a feeling that they really knock the draft out of the park and they really make some awesome moves in the draft, then I feel like the Raiders could potentially start to build a lot more momentum going into this, season. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Las Vegas Raiders? Do you think they can win right now? It's funny, the title says, Ryan Clark thinks the Raiders can win right now. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.